Hi, my name is Kesha. When I look back, I realize my journey with English wasn't a straight line. It was a path filled with excitement, confusion, disappointment, and hope. I still remember the first day I decided that I wanted to learn English. I was sitting in my room looking at a glossy magazine full of bright pictures and bold words. I didn't understand most of it, but something about those words fascinated me. They looked beautiful, like a secret code that only certain people could read and speak. I wanted to be one of those people. I wanted to open that secret world for myself, so I did what I thought everyone did when they wanted to learn a language. I went to a bookstore and bought a pile of grammar books. I subscribed to YouTube channels that promised perfect English in 30 days. I made a schedule, printed colorful charts, wrote hundreds of words in a thick notebook, and filled my room with sticky notes. Every wall had a different grammar rule stuck on it. Every evening after school, I would sit at my desk, determined to crack the mystery of English. At first it felt exciting. I loved opening new books, highlighting words, and checking boxes on my planner. I would spend hours memorizing lists of irregular verbs, practicing tenses, and repeating complicated sentences after online videos. I thought I was making real progress. After all, I could fill in blanks perfectly on grammar worksheets. I could even correct other people's grammar mistakes in written sentences. I felt proud. I felt smart, but everything changed when I actually had to speak. The first time I tried to speak English outside my room, I froze. I had prepared a simple self-introduction for a school event. It should have been easy. I had memorized every word carefully. But when I stood up in front of the class, something strange happened. My mind went completely blank. My palms got sweaty. My heart raced. The sentences that I knew so well disappeared from my head. I stumbled through half-finished phrases, mixing up tenses, forgetting words, and feeling like a fool. Everyone stared at me, politely quiet, but their silence felt heavier than any laugh could have. I told myself it was just first-time nervousness, but sadly it wasn't. Again and again, whenever I had to speak, even one sentence in English, my mind would betray me. I could think of the right sentence 5 minutes after the conversation ended, but never during the real moment. I couldn't understand why this was happening. I had studied so hard. I knew the grammar rules inside out. I had memorized thousands of words. I could ace written tests. Then why couldn't I speak? This question haunted me for months. I tried different methods. I wrote speeches and practiced them in front of the mirror. I read English books aloud. I watched grammar tutorials late into the night. I even recorded myself reading English news articles. But the result was always the same. When it came to real conversations, I either froze or sounded robotic, like I was reading from a script rather than actually talking. The frustration built up slowly, like invisible bricks stacking. On my chest, I felt like I was running in circles, getting tired but not moving forward. There were days when I sat at my desk, staring at my colorful notes, feeling like giving up. Maybe I'm just not talented, I thought. Maybe English is not for me. It hurt because deep down, I didn't just want to learn English. I wanted to live it. I wanted to feel comfortable using it, to joke, to express emotions, to sound real, not mechanical. But instead of feeling closer to that dream, I felt like I was building a cage around myself made of grammar rules and vocabulary lists. My friends didn't understand. When they saw my notebooks and flashcards, they thought I was doing great. Some even asked me for advice. I smiled and nodded, but inside I felt like a fraud. I knew the truth. My English was trapped inside my head. It wasn't alive. It wasn't free. One evening, after another terrible conversation attempt, I locked myself in my room and cried. I wasn't just frustrated. I felt heartbroken. I thought about all the hours, all the energy, all the hopes I had poured into this language, and yet here I was, unable to hold a simple, natural conversation. That night, something changed in me. I realized I couldn't keep going the same way. I couldn't keep stacking rules and notes, hoping that someday they would magically turn into real speaking skills. I needed something different, something real. But at that moment I had no idea what it could be. I just knew that I couldn't continue living inside grammar books while real conversations passed me by. Then, something unexpected happened. Every time someone spoke to me in English, I panicked. It didn't matter if it was a simple question like, "How are you?" or "Where are you from?" My heart would start racing, my palms would get sweaty, and my mind would suddenly become a complete mess. I could hear the words. I could even understand a few of them if I tried very hard. But somehow, by the time I managed to find the right grammar rule in my brain, or the correct tense or the correct pronunciation, the conversation had already moved forward. I was left behind, embarrassed, staring at the other person, wishing I could somehow disappear. It felt like English was a big mountain standing in front of me, and no matter how much I studied, no matter how many hours I spent memorizing new vocabulary, the mountain just got steeper. I thought maybe I wasn't smart enough. Maybe I wasn't talented enough to ever speak English the way I dreamed. I watched other people talking freely in English, laughing, making jokes, sharing stories, and I felt like an outsider, someone stuck on the other side of a glass wall. I could see what was happening, but I couldn't be part of it. I remember, once in school my English teacher asked me to introduce myself. I had prepared the introduction 100 times at home. I had written it down, memorized it, practiced it in front of the mirror. But when I stood up in front of the class, everything disappeared from my mind. All I could manage was, "My name is, and then silence. My classmates waited, smiling politely, but inside I could feel myself sinking. The more I tried to remember my sentences, the more they ran away from me. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me. This happened again and again. At the market, when a tourist asked me for directions. At the library, when a foreigner asked if a book was available. At school events, when visiting guests spoke to us in English. Each time it was the same: panic, silence, and the feeling that I was somehow broken. I thought that maybe English just wasn't meant for people like me, people who lived far away from big cities, people who didn't grow up hearing English in their homes every day. But deep inside, I refused to give up. I asked myself, why does English feel so unnatural to me? I studied the grammar. I learned the vocabulary. I even knew the spelling rules. But when it came to speaking naturally, all my learning seemed useless. I started noticing something strange. The people who spoke English fluently didn't always know the grammar rules better than me. In fact, some of them made small grammar mistakes too. But they spoke with confidence. They spoke with feeling. Their words flowed like water, not like a series of carefully placed bricks. I began to understand that my problem was not a lack of knowledge. My problem was that I was treating English like a school subject, something to memorize, something to get right in an exam, not like a living language meant for communication, laughter, connection. It was a hard truth to face because I had spent so much time and effort on studying, but I knew deep down that something had to change. I wanted to speak English not with fear, but with freedom. I wanted to listen and reply without worrying about every little mistake. I wanted to connect with people, not just impress them with perfect sentences. The question was, how? Where should I even begin? Should I take more grammar classes? Should I memorize more words? I spent weeks thinking about it. I tried to force myself into speaking more, but the fear never really left. It was like standing at the edge of a swimming pool, too scared to jump in. And then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened that changed everything. One afternoon, after a long and tiring day, I sat on my bed feeling lost and frustrated. I had just come back from my English class, and once again, I had struggled to put even a few sentences together during the speaking practice. My mind was filled with doubts. Am I ever going to be good at English? Why does everyone else seem so natural, and I'm stuck memorizing rules I can't even use? I didn't want to give up, but I also didn't know how to move forward. To distract myself, I opened my laptop and clicked on a random music video a friend had sent me. It was in English. At first, I wasn't really paying attention to the words. I was tired. But as the music played, something strange happened. I found myself swaying with the rhythm. The singer's voice was full of emotion, full of life. I didn't catch every word he sang, but somehow I understood the feeling. The words blended with the music like colors on a canvas. Some phrases popped out clear as crystal, while others floated past like clouds. And yet, it didn't bother me. I wasn't trying to break down each sentence. I wasn't trying to write anything down. I wasn't even thinking about grammar. I was just listening. And for the first time in a long while, English didn't feel scary. It felt beautiful. It felt alive. As I sat there, I thought to myself, maybe I've been doing it wrong all along. Maybe English isn't something you fight with a sword of grammar rules. Maybe it's something you absorb, something you live. I kept replaying the song, again and again. With every replay, I caught a few more words, and I realized it wasn't tiring. It was fun. It was natural. That night, a small spark lit up inside me. What if I made listening a part of my life? What if I stopped forcing myself to memorize and just let the language surround me like music does? I didn't have a full plan. I didn't know if it would work. But my heart told me to try. And sometimes, listening to your heart is the best teacher. The next morning, I started a new habit. Instead of beginning my day with grammar books, I opened YouTube and played a simple English conversation between two friends. No subtitles, no notebooks, just my ears and my heart. I listened while brushing my teeth. I listened while making breakfast. I listened while walking to class. I wasn't studying English anymore. I was living with it. I started listening to English songs when I exercised. I watched English vlogs where people showed their daily lives, buying groceries, cooking food, going for a walk. I downloaded podcasts about things I loved, traveling, food, music, and played them while cleaning my room. At first I couldn't catch everything. Sometimes whole sentences flew past me like fast cars, but strangely, I didn't feel discouraged. I remembered the music video and how feelings mattered more than perfection. I trusted the process. I believed that if I kept listening, something inside me would change. Slowly, I started hearing common phrases over and over. How's it going? I'm just chilling. You know what I mean? These little pieces started sticking to my brain, like pieces of a puzzle. They sounded easy, friendly, real. And the best part? I wasn't memorizing them. I was feeling them. Listening became part of my daily life. I didn't need to force myself. It became my habit, like drinking water or breathing. If I missed a day, I felt like something was missing. It wasn't homework anymore. It was part of who I was becoming. Sometimes I listened without understanding much. Other times, I caught almost everything. Some days were better than others. But no matter what, I kept listening. I didn't judge myself. I didn't pressure myself. I just stayed open. There was a moment when I realized how deep this habit had grown. I was sitting on a bus one evening, headphones in, listening to a podcast where two friends were discussing their weekend plans. I wasn't focusing hard. I wasn't translating. I was just enjoying their conversation like I would in my own language. For the first time, English didn't feel foreign. It felt familiar. It felt like home. I began noticing the way they laughed, the way they paused, the small sounds they made between words. These were not in grammar books. These were not taught in schools. These were the real sounds of living English, and I was finally hearing them. Not studying them, hearing them. The more I listened, the more my mouth itched to respond. I wanted to join those conversations. I wanted to share my thoughts, my jokes, my feelings, not just understand theirs. Listening was no longer enough. I had filled myself with so many sounds, so many rhythms, that now my body naturally wanted to speak. That was the beautiful turning point. And that's exactly how listening turned into speaking for me. At first, even after I had decided to listen to English every day, my speaking didn't change much. I still hesitated. I still felt unsure. I thought, maybe I was doing it wrong. Maybe just listening wasn't enough. But something inside me told me to keep going. I reminded myself, it's not about being perfect today. It's about growing, little by little. So I kept listening. I listened when I was cooking. I listened when I was walking to the store. I even fell asleep with English podcasts playing softly in my ears. I wasn't trying to memorize anything. I wasn't forcing myself to repeat everything. I was just allowing my mind to swim in the sounds of English. After a few weeks, something magical started happening. It was so small at first that I almost missed it. One day, my neighbor's little boy asked me in English, "Do you want to play football?" Without thinking, I smiled and said, "Sure, let's go." It was natural. I didn't stop to think about the grammar. I didn't translate the words from my own language to English. The answer just came out of my mouth. It surprised me. I stood there for a second, amazed. How did that happen? How did I speak without fear, without preparation? When Mr. Carson called my name, I stood up slowly. I held my notebook, not to read from it, but just for support. And then, without forcing it, without overthinking it, I began to speak. I told the class about my weekend plans, how I was going to meet my cousin at the park, how we planned to watch a movie afterward, how I had found a new cozy cafe that I wanted to try. I even added small jokes, little expressions like, "I'm so excited I might not sleep tonight," or "fingers crossed for good weather," phrases I had picked up from listening to native speakers in podcasts and interviews. And the best part? Everyone understood me. There were no awkward pauses, no puzzled looks, just smooth, natural communication. Mr. Carson nodded encouragingly throughout my short talk, and when I finished, he clapped his hands lightly and said, with a big warm smile, "Kesha, your English sounds so natural now." I can't describe the feeling that washed over me at that moment. It was a mix of pride, happiness, and quiet surprise. It wasn't just that someone praised me. It was that I myself felt different. For the first time in my life, English didn't feel foreign. It didn't feel like something I had to try to do. It felt like a part of me, like a second skin I had grown slowly, day by day, without even realizing it. As I sat down again, I looked out of the window at the sunset, and a small thought bloomed in my mind. This is it. This is what natural English feels like. I thought back to all the hours I had spent simply listening. Listening without pressure. Listening without trying to memorize every word. Listening to real people speaking real English. Letting my ears and mind absorb the rhythm, the feelings, the tiny details of how language truly lived. It hadn't been hard study that brought me here. It hadn't been memorizing long grammar rules or drilling vocabulary lists. It had been the simple, powerful habit of listening, of soaking in the sounds of English until they became part of my thinking, part of my speaking, part of who I was. After class, Mr. Carson called me aside. He asked me, "What changed for you, Kesha? You've grown so much." And I smiled. I didn't give a technical answer. I didn't talk about any learning method. I just said, I started listening with my heart, not just with my ears. He nodded slowly, as if he deeply understood. That night, as I walked home, the cool breeze playing with my hair, I felt a quiet joy inside me. English was no longer something I struggled to carry. It was something I lived, something I breathed. I remembered those lonely nights when I doubted myself. I remembered the frustrations, the mistakes, the fear. But now, looking back, I realized all those little moments of listening, all those quiet hours spent hearing the music of English, they had built something strong inside me, something real. It was never about perfection. It was about connection. It was about feeling the language, not forcing it. And at that moment, as the city lights flickered on and people hurried past me speaking in different languages, I whispered to myself, I did it. I speak English. Naturally. I didn't need certificates to prove it. I didn't need someone else's permission to believe it. I knew it deep in my heart. Listening had taught me how to speak. And that simple truth changed my life forever. If you feel stuck in your English journey, maybe you don't need to work harder. You just need to listen more. Let English flow into your life naturally, and one day, you'll find yourself speaking it naturally too. If you found my story inspiring, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to English Tone. Let's keep growing together, one real story at a time.